And we are back for episode 13 of Journey to a Million. The offseason previews continue here on the podcast. We have on our biggest guest yet to start the episode here, Zack Settleman. If you guys know him, I bet you better know him. He's the founder of SnapBack Sports, and that's the largest sports-based Snapchat account in the world. He's accrued over 1.2 million followers across all platforms. So we'll call him a celebrity here. Yeah, Zack Settleman. How you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for that incredible intro. And I'm ready to talk some Ravens football. I talk a little, but I don't get to go in depth and show my true knowledge. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think we should do and talk about it myself as well.
Yeah, so Zach Roush also joined with me for the first half here of the episode. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Ravens, how it went this past season. And Jack, we'll start with you. If you want to grade your season, how would you grade it?
I would grade it a C-. I don't think there were too many positives to really take from it. You could grab the fact that at one point we were the 1 seed, we were 8-3, and we shouldn't have been. But outside of that, the injuries were brutal. Bateman showed a little bit of promise. That was virtually it, though. There's not a lot of carryover from young guys that we got to see develop. There wasn't a ton to build on. We didn't see Roman expand the playbook a ton. So it's not that great of a season. Now, what does that mean for next? That I'll have a different opinion on.
Yeah. Zach, if we look at it, right, if you say maybe two-point conversion plays away from the playoffs, if you really want to put it, in that way. I know play doesn't define everything, but that's one way maybe to even look at how it went for the Ravens, because us being Packer fans here, being more Packers show, go Pack go. We got to see Tyler Huntley, and he impressed a lot of people, right? So that's kind of what we thought of Huntley, impressive stuff. But let's transition now here into the offseason. And then there's a lot of questions I feel for this Ravens team, right? And right now, from the start, Jack, what do you think, is the biggest priority for the Baltimore Ravens?
The biggest priority should be signing Lamar Jackson to a contract. You see the Commanders are trading draft capital for Carson Wentz. You see what it takes to get a star. Lock up your guy. I don't understand what the issue is. Let me give you an interesting tidbit that I think you won't find in other places. The media is pushing this narrative that if Lamar had a contract agent like most players do, the deal would be done. He's screwing himself. He's going to go into the season without. Let me tell you something interesting about all of this. What's being reported is being reported by reporters like Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. The reason the narrative is such is because the fact that Lamar does not have an agent means that those reporters do not have inside access to the proceedings, which is why if in the future players were to self-represent, it would mean Schefter and Rappaport would lose access that they normally get through the agents, and that's why they will continue to talk down on Lamar doing it this way. So that's quite interesting. I don't know if many people are understanding of that. They do need to sign him, though, and that just needs to happen. Besides that, build a wall around him, get him protection, keep him healthy like most should for a franchise quarterback, and then go from there.
Yeah. What would you say?
Do you think him not having an agent does affect it, like aside from the media? Like, do you think it actually does?
I don't know. It's a good question because all that we've heard is that it does, and it's the reason the contract. So you're kind of going through an almost biased lens of that's the only information we are going off of. I don't know what they're kind of just negotiating over, right? Like, is it an extra few million here or there? Is it the structure? If it's the Ravens saying, hey, you're not the guy for us, I think that's asinine, and it doesn't matter if he had an agent or not. He's going to get all-time money, right? And so I'm not sure what is holding up that process. I could also see a world where Lamar is crazy in the fact that he only cares about winning. He wants to get his money and get paid, but he's so locked in that he might just not be that urgent about it. And truly, I could see him wanting to risk it all and just play this season out and win a Super Bowl and then get next level money. But to me, when Joe Flacco did that, the upside was 5x what he was originally going to get. Lamar, it's like, okay, are you going to get 50 million a year if you win the Super Bowl, or you get 45 if you don't? I don't think it's quite worth it.
Yeah, like you said, maybe we could even see Lamar, maybe even take a cut to win. Lamar's a winner, right? I mean, we saw him in his college days, right? And hopefully we can see, as a Lamar Jackson dynasty holder, really hoping, to keep seeing Lamar do some great things. I know last year he had some up and down games, to say the least, even the injury stuff that all took place. But, things are looking up, I still think, for Lamar. He's young, and yeah, that extension is well-deserved, and I like that as the number one priority for sure. And then you also mentioned some needs. Get guys to protect him, right? Isn't that something we would say is something the Ravens need? And looking then at some free agents too, is there any guys who you think the Ravens need to sign?
Huge retirement today from Alejandro Villanueva. He was protecting Lamar's blind side for a large portion of the year. That wasn't going very well. We knew he wasn't going to be on the team. Now there's question marks over, will even Ricard be back? Will Bozeman kind of return? But once again, the reason why last year was a C- was because Ronnie Stanley, the guy you paid to protect, you let Orlando Brown Jr. walk. And now it's a question, is he even going to be on the field anymore, Ronnie Stanley? Can he play up to that level? It's just very complicated. And we don't have any more information than we did before the season started. You thought he'd be back last year. So if he's back, that already cements a huge part of the line. He's an all-pro, Pro Bowler. I just don't know if that's realistic.
Yeah, he's definitely a big piece. Every team needs a good left tackle, and he's up at the top of those left tackles. But is there any interior line or right tackle, anything like that you think the Ravens need to work on?
I would say the center position, I felt like we had a little more consistency this season, which was nice to see. I think that, I prefer the tackle positions over the guards, although we run a lot with our pulling guards. So I honestly replaced Villanueva. I know we signed James last year. Denver was a bit of an injury risk, but we kind of went with that, held him on the roster for the year. I am very confident if the Ravens brought back all their guys healthy, including Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Peters, right? Humphrey got hurt, that this roster is plenty good enough to get the job done. The two weak spots, and they weren't my main areas to address, but the two known weak spots, the safety position and the linebacker position. You've got two safeties who aren't very agile. You kind of have two strong safeties in Elliott and Clark. You really need a free safety to cover that deep ball. And then the middle linebacker spot, they drafted Queen, and Queen's been all right, but he gets lost in play action often. He's terrible in pass coverage. And so you look at a player like Bobby Wagner, that's the dream. You play those two kind of next to each other, let Queen just be a run stopper, fly all over the field. I think the changes and the fixes and the free agents, it really is about bringing players back and then, fitting in a couple of those spots.
And then with the draft, because, right, draft might be a great way right now for the Baltimore Ravens to, maybe even get some offensive linemen, maybe even, like you mentioned, a linebacker potentially if Bobby Wagner ends up not being that guy in Baltimore. But is there, have you done your draft homework? Yeah, I know draft still being a month and a half, away. Is there any guys who have really caught your attention with the combine just wrapped up?
I'm obsessed with Stingley. I think he's the best corner in the draft, and I know Sauce Gardner is getting all the hype, as he should. He was incredible, and Stingley's career. The problem with Stingley is his career trajectory was like, as a true freshman, he was guarding the best wide receiver in the country, shutting them down, and they were like, if he could graduate tomorrow or go to the draft, he would be a top 5 pick. So the expectations were, he might not have shut down every receiver he ever played against. And so he's had a little bit of a drop, but I love him. Ravens don't traditionally trade up. Obviously, they love to trade down and continue to amass picks. So I think Stingley's probably gone before, but they cut Tavon Young today, who they hope to bring back. The question is, do they go with Do they go with Marcus Peters again, coming off an injury, or do they cut him for cap reasons? That's going to be what's really going to swing, I think, a lot of the draft strategy.
Yeah, Zach, is there, in your mind, looking at the guys who can be cut, is there someone on your mind with the cap space situation? Because I know you like to look into that a lot, which is obviously something you want to look into with free agency in the offseason.
With Villanueva retiring, There's like Tavon Young is probably one of their biggest savings, but that's also in that secondary, which Jack, you were just talking about how they kind of may have a few pieces moving and need to work on the safeties. But in the draft, I think I've seen DeCosta has this history of doing best player available and not really, especially early in the draft, and not really going for positions of need. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does draft someone that maybe isn't one of their biggest positions in need, but is like a place they can upgrade instead.
And I also think in this window, which is Lamar's, here, they've got a couple players who are on big contracts where traditionally you would love to fit in the rookie deals. But how many players as rookies make an impact at a high level? I'm not talking about could we get a backup in year one who's a good pass rusher that totals a few sacks, or, could they get a couple interceptions or be a starter on the O-line? But like, it's very rare. I think the most recent example would be Winfield Jr. as a rookie, right? He actually made an impact and was a key plug-in for the Bucs. Outside of that, you rarely see rookies go huge because, the teams that go to the Super Bowl are drafting later, so you're not even getting the top rookies in the draft. So it's more a long-term play with those guys, and that's where I'd rather go out and sign the Honey Badger and Bobby Wagner, obviously, fill those holes immediately and kind of figure out the cap later.
Yeah, I think that move right now, especially with a guy like Lamar Jackson, and like you mentioned, guys returning from injuries, with the Ravens, why not? Why not them? In your case, why not us, right? And,
exactly.
I think that's certainly a possibility. But I have a question in here, talking Tyler Huntley. Do you think, seeing him on a different team this next year, you think that's something certainly very likely, right?
I don't know if I would necessarily say it's likely, especially, in today's day where quarterbacks get hurt and Lamar's not locked up. And it's very rare you're going to find a quarterback who can fit the system. Ever since Lamar's been the starter and Roman built the system, RG3 was the backup, McSorley was the backup. You've now got Huntley in there. I know he balled out in theory against your Packers, but I'm not all in on Tyler Huntley. I would have easily traded him for another pick, although it's great to have security at that position. Tyler Huntley, I think people misconstrued a little bit. Yes, he scored 30 points and they were 2-pointer away from beating Green Bay, but they went like 35 minutes without scoring a point in that game. And it was just the two, he was running a lot down the stretch. He didn't score a touchdown against the Rams. He goes through these stretches. He's just clearly not a QB1 in my opinion. Could he develop in theory? Sure. But he's just not like an elite quarterback. And so there were actual fans in Baltimore who were like, let Lamar walk. We'll save money. We'll roll with Huntley. And it's just like, people, look at the numbers. Tyler Huntley didn't win a game in the last 5. Like, I know he played all right, and I know games were close, but we win the game against LA with Lamar. You win the game against Pittsburgh with Lamar. You probably win the Packers game too with Lamar. And so for that reason, I'm not all in on Huntley. I think trade him where his value is best, or just decide, okay, we want to pay a backup and we want to keep him for a couple of years. I'm fine with that too.
I think if Huntley did get a kind of like more opportunity to start, it'd be kind of like a Taylor Heineke type season where it's kind of inconsistent. But you also kind of mentioned Greg Roman's system a little bit. Are you a fan of Greg Roman? Because I know there's some people that are kind of not the biggest fans.
We don't love Greg Roman, which is why it was pretty crazy to see Wink was the one that got, it was mutual, but they let him go and they kept Roman. Roman has I would say he has a stance. He has a leg to stand on, and the fact that, he didn't have Lamar for the last 5, and Bateman was a rookie, and Andrews, who did have, the top season out of all the tight ends. So, but it's just as simple as like, you're never going to evolve the offense with Greg Roman, an offensive coordinator. And maybe you can say it's Lamar's limitations, but you've seen this wherever Roman's been. He did it with Kaepernick, with the Bills. He just kind of builds something cool. People figure it out. And then, he doesn't develop it. And so I think that's probably more where I'm worried is, you look at the Dolphins game this season, it was on national TV. Lamar looked like the biggest idiot in the history of football, right? He couldn't move the ball. He looked terrible. But it's because they were running these zero coverage blitzes and Roman had no answer for it. And so I think it comes on the OC as much as, Lamar and the offense in that case.
Yeah, I want to go back to Tyler Huntley one more time here, talking. So, maybe even talk like maybe a sell high candidate, right? If teams were offering draft picks, you would certainly, based on what you said, which I completely agree. Wasn't really. I mean, he put up that big showing against Green Bay. I'll keep mentioning he had one other pretty good game too, but so you would trade him, right? I mean, if teams were offering some capital.
This is where it's complicated. Like I was saying, I would trade him. I think like Lamar's going to be the quarterback, so it's pointless. You might as well get a pick for him. In the same vein, though, like it is rare to have a quality backup, and it's especially rare to have one that fits your system. So I think the risk reward of keeping Huntley around probably makes sense over just picking up another third or fourth. Sure. If you got a first for him, that's when I think conversations would swing. And that was a conversation at one point. I mean, look, if Washington's giving up multiple seconds and thirds for Carson Wentz, why couldn't Huntley get 1 second rounder on a rookie deal? He could, but I would rather hold him.
Yeah, that's where I was going with, with the Wentz trade we saw now Wednesday, which would have been Wednesday. This episode, of course, airing Friday. So that's where I bring that up. But Zach, prospects, was there any guys, because we talked already about some of the guys that Jack was looking at, like Stingley. Is there any prospect you think would fit the Ravens needs right now? Because right now, I mean, looking at some mock drafts, I know they're mock drafts, we see Tyler Linderbaum kind of falling with them. That's usually an occasional one. Jermaine Johnson, we see an edge fall in one. I guess, what do you guys think? I guess I'm asking everyone here about some of these mock drafts, with Ravens picks.
I think, obviously, like Jack said, Stingley's going to be gone ahead of there. And I think Linderbaum, I have a feeling he's going to go to the Giants with their second first-round pick they got from the Bears. But I could see like a Trent McDuffie. He's kind of not really a Stingley and Sauce Gardner level, but I think he's kind of like that next defensive back type that potentially might fall to the Ravens.
Yeah, the Tyler pick is super trendy. Like we get the Big Ten O lineman mocked to us at pick 20 every year, and for some reason it never falls like that. We always want it. Like I would love to pick up a really strong offensive lineman in the first round, plug and play. I just don't see it happening because it never seems to for some reason. But I like him. Pass rushing is where it gets really, really interesting now that Wink is gone. So, the Ravens have had a pass rushing issue ever since, honestly, Terrell Suggs left. They let Judon walk, but Judon wasn't bringing in sacks. They let Ngakoue walk last year. He wasn't actually compiling sacks, but they're blitzing a ton. And so when you use those two strong safeties, they can get to the quarterback a little more. Now with this new defensive scheme, are we going to need more production out of just a straight edge rusher instead of our traditional way of kind of getting to the quarterback? That would be a really good reason to say, hey, let's go pick up, one of those guys in the draft. The problem is we've missed on a bunch of them recently. Owe was a great pickup. So they finally hit on one last season. Are they willing to try their luck again? We shall see. But needs, I see receivers on that list. Get that off the list. We don't need a receiver. Bateman is going to be very, very good. Hollywood had a tough second half, but he was spectacular in the first half. He was a 1,000-yard receiver. They had 3 quarterbacks throw the ball this year, and then Mark Andrews at the tight end position. So more so than a need at wideout, thank you for removing that, is tight end 2. That is the biggest difference between, the Ravens' success of the last couple of years and last year. They need a second, kind of dual threat tight end. You saw with Hayden Hurst a couple years ago during Lamar's MVP season. Boyle came back. He was a little bit of a threat. But really, when they get in those tight end heavy sets, that's when the Ravens are at their best. And so they can easily find a wide receiver 3 in free agency. Although, look, if you want to say Allen Robinson wants to come for a little discount, that he can walk through the door, and I would be fine with that.
Yeah, Jared, the other guy part of the show, is a Colts fan. So, Allen Robinson's a guy who gets brought up in those conversations as well. So we were talking. So we'll see if he ends up, Colts or Ravens or maybe another team. But do you guys have anything else before we start with the 2022 season preview?
That's it for me.
All right, Zach. All right. So what happens here, this is a game we do. I'm going to read the 2022 Baltimore Ravens opponents. You're going to tell me, Jack, the first record that comes to your mind, and we're going to write it down, and we'll see how close you are at the end of the year. We'll let you know.
Okay. All right. I think it's a bit unfair. This is what you need to do, Zach, because we were DMing. Once the actual schedule, home and away matters, bye week matters, I want you to come back to me. Just make sure that I still want to stick to my original record because that stuff matters. Scheduling, losses, all that. But I'm down to play. At least now we have a little more information. Like Russ, I think we play the Broncos this year, so we know that. I think we play the Packers as well, maybe. Or no, that was last year.
You do play the Broncos, though. And
okay.
it does say home and away on the schedule.
Okay, all right. So that's enough. But I know we might go to London. That could throw off, too many
some variables.
Chips. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's go. All right. Cincinnati Bengals, you host them. Cleveland Browns in Baltimore. Pittsburgh, another home game. You host Buffalo, host Miami, host Atlanta, host Carolina. Go to Cincinnati, go to Cleveland, go to New England, go to New Orleans, go play the Jets at New York, go play Pittsburgh, go to Tampa, and you host Denver, you go to Jacksonville, and then you play the Giants at New York. So what do you think?
So one of the incredible things about our C-minus 2021 season is that we're playing a fourth place schedule this season. So that is very nice. And because of our loss in the last week, I think we added the Giants as our bonus game. So that's incredible too. So you've got a fourth place schedule. You're now playing the Giants, which is an away game, but it's right here. And then you've also got the worst division in football as your NFC division. So the schedule is quite favorable for the Ravens. I guess the couple changes that make it a little tougher is we pick up what AFC division we play. I guess the AFC East. So why do we play the Broncos but also the Giants? I guess the Broncos were the fourth place. So they were fourth place in the West. That now with Russ is a little bit tougher. And then of course our division. That's where it gets tough. So I'm going to say we'll go 3-3 in division just because I think that sets it easily. I think we can go 3-1 against the AFC East. Maybe we lose in New England or to Buffalo. So that would put us at 6-4. I think we will beat the Giants. Where's the Denver game?
Denver game is in Baltimore.
Okay. So 7-4, and then we've got the NFC South plus the Denver game. That's 5 of those games. I think we'll go 4-1 in those. That puts us at 11-5. I don't know what the last game I would be missing would be. Trying to think. I think we end up 12-5.
All right.
Which should, in a tough division, depending on tiebreakers, should win us the division. My guarantee is that Cincy will finish in the bottom half of the division. That I would be very eager to wager on.
Do you think the Browns pass up Cincy?
I think the Browns could, or I think Pittsburgh, if they get the right quarterback, they could pass them up too. Cincy is going to be the most overrated team next season. They were a luck box. Burrow's a stud. Their offense is cool, but they were a luck box of a team. We saw in the Super Bowl. They should, if you play that Super Bowl 10 more times, like Cincy should have won that game easily. They dominated, and then they still lost it. So I think that Cincy's not going to be that great.
I know Zach and I were both. I mean, I was rooting Bills a little as well because we wanted Packers Bills Super Bowl. Packers obviously wanted to win, but didn't really happen like that way. But Zach, I'll let you go next here in picking records.
I'm gonna go 12-5 as well. I think they win the division by a game or two, but I think the Browns are going to improve, take one from the Ravens, and then I think the Ravens lose to Cincy at least once. But I think they're going to beat Pittsburgh both times just because I think a lot of like the big quarterbacks are kind of off the market. So I think that kind of hurts Pittsburgh's chances unless obviously Watson can still go there. But I mean, we don't really know what his legal situation is currently, but I think they go 12-5, win the division.
So I write down my records first, and I also put down 12-5. So that's how fun this is. So we have 3 12-5s. I mean, I like what you guys all said, right? And I think winning a division certainly looks good for the Ravens. I think Lamar is a big year in fantasy. I mean, no bias, but would need it.
He should.
Then I also, you know, I keep pushing the Huntley trade thing because, you know, it would help his dynasty value for me, right? So I hope those things happen and go Ravens, right? So, Zach, Jack, anything else with that?
I would just say, you know, right now it's March and you're probably not thinking about the Ravens much. They'll probably not make any huge splashes. Wagner's a reach, Honey Badger's a reach. They'll get those low salary guys. They'll draft quietly. But what's going to happen is slowly but surely, September, October is going to roll around. And the Ravens are going to be favorites in games because they're healthy. And Lamar Jackson wins games. And then like once we get to, you know, November and the Ravens are 6-2, he's going to do one play and everyone's going to remember who's back. And that's the winningest quarterback to start a career ever in Lamar Jackson with a really good team and a really good culture. And look, I think as Packers fans, you probably understand both sides of it. One, the expectation of, look, we got Aaron Rodgers. We got a good franchise. We're going to win a lot of games. The questions about the playoffs, I think, are fair for both sides. But come November, the Ravens should be sitting pretty.
Yeah, Zach, anything else with that?
I think as long as the Ravens stay healthy, obviously the AFC is a really strong conference right now, but I think they have a shot.
Yeah, I agree. NFC is looking, you know, not so great compared to the AFC quarterback wise and just overall team wise, as we all know, especially now with Russ going NFC to AFC, the NFC got weaker somehow. So
yeah, if you're a Packers fan, you're like, if we can't do it this year, I don't know if it's ever happening again, because that NFC, you're licking your chops.
Oh.
Rodgers, Devontae back, it's prime.
Exactly. And yeah, Jack, you want to shout yourself out? Where can people find you? I mean, a lot of people have already found you, but where can the other people find you?
Yeah, if you like sports, at SnapBack Sports on Snapchat is the biggest, as Andrew alluded to before. We're on all platforms, TikTok, YouTube, etc. And then my personal stuff, if you think my takes are wrong or right, come find me at Jack Settleman. Love to engage on Twitter. Been trying to build up the TikTok. I'm also on Snap and Instagram, of course. But yeah, I appreciate you fellas for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, we'll go Ravens. Hopefully they do make some noise next year. But with that, let's go and let's talk some Texans here on the show. Episode 13 of the offseason previews resume on the podcast here. We have on Enyi. He's from the NuChannel Sports Podcast. So how you doing today, Enyi?
I'm doing good, man. I'm kind of conflicted a little bit because I have to talk about my Texans, which I've been on and off this bandwagon for a couple of years now. So I'm conflicted a bit, but it's good to be here. It's a pleasure to be on you guys' podcast, and I thank you. I really do. I'm humbled to be on you guys' podcast today.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys are doing some great stuff as well on your show, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode. But yeah, we have myself here. We have the whole Journey to Million crew for the second half. Jared Blesky, Zach Roush, and myself, Drew Skyberg. And let's get right into it. We're going to talk Houston Texans. So, Enyi, I'm going to start with you. If you want to rate the 2021 to 22 season for the Texans, where would you go?
Well, I'm going to surprise you guys a little bit. I'm going to give them a passing mark, and I'm going to say they have like a D+. I give them a D+, because everything that was going on with the Texans, we already know about the Deshaun Watson drama, right? And we know that they had a head coach in David Culley who wasn't really that good at being a head coach. And so with all that stuff going on and all the drama that was going on, for them to finish 4-13, I give him a passing mark on that. So I get him a D plus for that. But they weren't really expected to do much either last year with everything going on. So that's kind of why I give them the passing mark. And they have a lot to do, fellas, a lot to work on in order to get this franchise back to where they were when they're actually going to the playoffs year in and year out, and actually being the Colts on a consistent basis. That's for you, Jared. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, and I'm kind of not. So we'll see what happens from here on out.
Maybe they beat the Colts next year too. We don't know who's under center for the Colts right now. You know, we know it looks like it's going to be Davis Mills for the Texans, barring something. But with that, let's kind of get now into the offseason for the Houston Texans. And open question for the floor here: is there any free agent? We'll start with that you guys would say must re-sign for right now for the Texans. Like, is there anyone who just stands out? Enyi, is there?
Well, there is a favorite, right? I would like Justin Reed to come back and play for the Texans. He was a very promising prospect before, when I don't know if you guys heard about the little confrontation he got into with David Culley when he was down here in Houston, midway through the season, and they had to suspend him for a game. And after that, it looked like, after the season was done, he would not be back with the Texans. But in a recent interview with him, he does like the direction the Texans are going in, and he does like their new head coach in Lovie Smith, and he thinks that he can play under Lovie Smith. But I'm not going to get my hopes up too high on them getting Justin Reed, because I do think he's going to be out the door. I do think there's a lot of options for him to go to, and I do think he's a great player. But to be honest with you, as far as what the Texans would want to get, I don't think they're really concerned about keeping anybody, to be honest with you. But that's just someone I wish they would keep, is Justin Reed.
Yeah, like you said.
Go ahead, Jared.
Okay, they have a lot of work, you said, and they got a lot of work to do if they want to get back into, like you said, contending even in their division. So, I would want a few people back, like obviously the former Packer, Christian Kirksey. They could re-sign him. I've seen him play. Like, he has talent. But yeah, there's a lot of players that they need to get set, like a lot of places they need to fill. So they got some work to do yet.
Zack?
Yeah, I see just kind of similar to last season when they just signed some kind of like no big free agents, but kind of those little players that have had promising seasons in the past, just sign them to like 1-2 year deals, and then once the trade line comes, you can flip them for a pick or something like that. I think it'll be kind of similar to their last offseason.
Right, and that's what we usually see. Look at Texans; they're a rebuilding team, right? So with rebuilding teams, we often see pick up those guys like Zack mentioned, those 1 to 2 year deals. Alluding a little bit to baseball here. That's exactly what you want to do: pick up guys, these 1-2 year deals, let them prove themselves, and then ship them off for some. In this case, for football, it's going to be some draft capital, and that would certainly right now help out the Texans. And now let's talking with the cap situation and stuff too. $17.6 million in the cap space, and then talking how to free up maybe some more of that cap space. We don't know. Deshaun Watson, of course, is the biggest question when you think of the Houston Texans right now. And I guess Enyi, can we hear kind of your thoughts right now on Deshaun Watson? Like what's going on with Texans Nation right now?
Well, the situation with Deshaun Watson right now is really nothing can be done right now until he settles everything in court. So right now he has a lot of stuff going on. I think it's 23 civil lawsuits against him. Now, if I think it's a certain date sometime within now and next week to where we're going to find out whether or not there are going to be criminal charges against him. If there are criminal charges against him, guys, then trading Deshaun Watson is not going to be an option for a very, very long time. So within now and sometime next week, if there are no criminal charges against him, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him traded very, very soon, because then that means that he can possibly settle and get everything out the way before the season starts. And so if that's the case, then the Texans are going to be looking to most definitely trade him. And we already know about what happened with Russell Wilson and the trade that he did going to the Denver Broncos. I think that's going to kind of be the similar kind of package the Texans are looking for. Maybe one more first-round draft pick, because if you gave Russell Wilson 2 first-round draft picks, Deshaun Watson's younger. He's a promising young quarterback. I think the Texans can look forward to trying to get 3 first-round draft picks. So, yeah, everything kind of will fall into place once we find out what's happening with his court situation, and then the Texans can find out how much they're going to get as far as draft capital for him.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we would want to get something around Wilson or even more. It's just the big question, like you mentioned, is, once everything's settled in court, and even when it is settled, that still might hurt, the trade things, because what if something like this were to happen again in his career? What if more allegations? That's why I don't know about maybe more than Russell Wilson, which ideally, talent-wise, of course, right? But right. Looking at, maybe the liability that other franchises might be afraid of or might fear might really hurt his value. But I don't know, Zach or Jared, what would you guys think for Watson? Something comparable to Wilson?
I mean, that's what I was thinking. Do you think there's a team out there that would be willing to trade for Watson, even with all these allegations, even if they aren't criminal charges? I don't know if you're a Texans fan, Enyi, and would you rather have them trade him away, or do you want them to build around him? What would you prefer for him?
Of course, I want them to build around Deshaun Watson. And when everything first went down, where he said that he wanted out of Houston, what all the Texans fans were hoping was that, no, please don't go. We'll do anything for you to stay. But now that time has gone on and we're hearing all this ruckus and he has all these allegations against him, now we're just tired. We're fatigued, right? We've been going through a lot of stuff, from DeAndre Hopkins being traded for a refrigerator and a bucket of water, and to just the whole fiasco with the previous head coach. I forget his name. His name eludes me. But with all that stuff going on now, as a Texan fan, we kind of just want this all to go away. We would love Deshaun Watson to stay, but now we're facing reality, and we know that the only way for the Texans to really get better is to trade him away, kind of just move on and get as much back as possible for him.
Is there any suitor, and anyone can answer this, that you guys think would really stand out? Because, the Panthers, there was some, links to the Bucks, of course. Was there anyone that you guys saw that really caught your eyes?
I mean, the Colts are always looking for a quarterback. Not that he's going to division rival.
No.
But
Zach?
I can see them getting the best package from the Panthers, but I would like to see him go to the Steelers, just because I think the Steelers are kind of like a well-run team, and that they'd be able to build a team around them and just kind of keep this success going. With obviously Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in 15 years or whatever it is, but just kind of see that happen. But I can see the Panthers getting him offering a better package for him.
So do you think if they do trade to the Steelers, do they get back Mason Rudolph, or do they still stick with Davis Mills?
I think Davis Mills is going to be a starter next year. I mean, I think he kind of won that job.
Yeah, what I'm hearing down here in Houston is that Davis Mills is definitely going to keep the job. They want to see what he really has in him. But I'm also hearing that they may just bring somebody in to compete with him, just to see if he would lose the job. But if Deshaun Watson goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I might have to do another show with me where I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I would jump ship from the Houston Texans to the Pittsburgh Steelers for sure, because Mike Tomlin is one of my favorite coaches of all time.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, the record, like Zach mentioned, hasn't had a losing season in ever, right? I mean, has he? That's the.
I don't think he ever has had a losing season.
That's the stat, right? Yeah.
Right.
So absolute winner right there, Mike Tomlin. But let's talk about another trade potential piece here. Laremy Tunsil. Do we think he's going to move? Enyi, what are you hearing in Houston for this one?
I am hearing that they are trying to move Laremy Tunsil. I think the suitor was the Cincinnati Bengals at one point, because they have a little bit of a problem there, offensive line. So that was the number one team I was hearing around Super Bowl time. It's kind of quieted down now, but I do think they are looking to move him and then maybe rebuild their offensive line through the draft. So that's what I've been hearing down here.
What do you think his value is right now? Because I know you Houston traded, was it 2 first-round picks for him?
Yeah.
Was it just 1? I mean,
yeah.
I don't think you're going to get that back, obviously, but
no.
Can you get a 1 or the second round?
The only way we will probably get more if for some reason another team decides to hire Bill O'Brien, and then we can just trade him back to that team, and then he can give us back our draft picks. That's the only way we'll get more value for him. But right now, I don't see us getting that much for him. I do think, though, I did mention the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think that is the one team, because if they really look at how far they got, that was their one weakness, right? Was the offensive line. So they might just give up the house to get a couple of key pieces there to keep Joe Burrow healthy and human protected. So that is the one team I'm looking for. You say they won't give up 2 number ones, but who knows with that team?
Yeah, you're spot on with that. And looking in the draft, I mean, right now the Texans are sitting very nicely, with picks. They are loaded. That 3rd overall pick in the 1st round, that's looking nice as well. And you would certainly think, right, Enyi, that offensive lineman would be taken with that 3rd overall pick, right?
Yeah, I think it's Icky. I forget Icky Ekwonu. That's the guy right
State.
now. Yeah,
NC
that's the
State,
guy I'm hearing about a lot. I think he is an absolute monster. I think that's the guy they should definitely be looking at trying to draft if they're really trying to build that offensive line. But don't be surprised if the Texans trade that pick away, right? Trade down and try to get more draft picks. That's kind of send them also here and there as well. But I don't know. I fell in love with Icky, man. I think that if they're able to get him, they will really have a solidified offensive lineman on their team.
Yeah, in some drafts I've seen Evan Neal, and that's one we've seen 1st overall, right? Tied to, I've seen those 2 guys switch. So, if Evan Neal falls to 3, you would take him then instead, right? Is that kind of where you would stand?
Yeah. I would stand on that too. Yes, absolutely.
And then, like you mentioned, trading down, I'll throw some more offensive linemen out there. Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. That might be a guy, and that's only, 2-3 spots is kind of where he's projected to go and might be a difference. But then, in our Ravens episode, we talked about Tyler Linderbaum. That's a guy, later 1st round that maybe, might open some eyes in Houston. And then, there's a guy from Valders where we're from, Luke Gedeke, an offensive tackle who we might see 2nd, 3rd round, maybe end up in Houston, right? So, there's a lot of offensive lineman prospects this year. I don't know if you've done any, draft research. Is there any other guy or any other prospect maybe that you're looking into?
I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I really dived into all the draft picks or everybody coming out of college. I just know a couple of people, and I do know the pieces that the Texans need in order to rebuild. I think that main piece for them right now is the offensive line. So if they decide to trade that pick and just go after any of the guys you just mentioned, I think that will kind of be the route they're going through.
A few mock drafts are also saying Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. I don't know. I know you said you want a lineman, but I'm just looking at some mock drafts, and they're saying safety. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
They might be anticipating that it's going to lose my boy that we're talking about, Justin Reed. They're anticipating that they're not going to have him around, so they're going to try to find someone to replace him. So that kind of makes me sad. I wish he didn't say anything about that now.
Zack, what about you? What do you think for these draft prospects for the Texans?
I think they're probably going to go tackle. I mean, if for some reason Evan Neal and EQ, or however you say his name, the guy from NC State, if they're both gone, which I doubt is going to happen, I think either Hutchinson or Thibodeau get an edge.
I don't think Hutchinson's going to fall much. He's going to probably go top 2.
People have him like a lock with Detroit. I've seen every mock draft I've seen him, he's sticking in Michigan. He's staying. He's going to Detroit. And I feel like that's like the consensus thing right now. It's just like meant to be, right? I would be shocked if that didn't happen. So, yeah. Other than that, guys, any other draft prospects for anyone before we kind of talk some 2022 season predictions?
No, I think you can go.
Just one more thing though, with the acquisition of Lovie Smith, I do think they're going to be looking to draft a lot of people defensively, because that's what Lovie Smith was built on when he was back with Chicago. So I do think they're going to try to build through the offensive line and get a lot of defensive pieces for that team.
I do have a question. Like, What is your view on kind of like a Nico Collins for maybe fantasy this year, or Brandon Cooks? I think Nico Collins maybe have a little bit better year than he did last year.
Well,
I don't know if you play fantasy, but would you draft either of those guys?
Yes, I would. I had Brandon Cooks last year on my team, and he actually performed a lot better than I thought he would. It was a PPR league, which helped a little bit, but he did do good things for my team. Nico Collins, he's kind of a oddly to me like a boomer bust kind of guy. I can see him having a dismal season next year for some reason, but at the same time, I can see him just coming back during the offseason and really developing his game and having a really, really good year. So I have mixed emotions about Nico Collins for real. I'm leaning more towards that he would have a good year because that means Davis Mills is going to have one more year under his belt. And so he's going to be a lot better quarterback. And then there's not really any other wide receivers for him to throw to besides Brandon Cooks. So that means just by nature, he would have to improve.
Do you think I got another dynasty one I'll throw at you? Brevin Jordan, is there anything there? What do you think about Brevin Jordan? Dynasty potential, anything?
No thoughts right now.
No, what? Okay.
No. Honestly, no thoughts right now on Brevin Jordan. Honestly.
All right. So, with that, then you guys want to talk, to do our season predictions. We do a little game here to round out the episode. Are you ready, Enyi?
I'm ready.
All right. So I'm going to read the schedule. I'm going to read all 17 opponents. You're going to tell me the first record that comes to your mind. Jared, Zach, and myself are also going to answer after you. And then when the season comes and goes, we will let you know how you did.
So you mean like the ending record?
Yeah. You're going to give me what you think your Texans will finish this year record-wise.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the opponents, like I said, and then everyone, we're gonna give our records. It'll be a lot of fun. So let's get started here. I have the home and away opponents as well, so you will know them. So here we go. At home, you're hosting the Commanders, going to Dallas to face the Cowboys, going to Denver, hosting Indianapolis, hosting Jacksonville, hosting Tennessee, hosting Kansas City, hosting Los Angeles, the Chargers, hosting the Eagles, going to Lucas Oil Stadium to face the Colts, going to Jacksonville, going to Vegas, playing the Giants at New York, and then going to Tennessee, going to Chicago, hosting Cleveland, and then going to play Miami. So what do you think?
Well, they're going to beat the Colts.
That's okay.
For sure. So I got those are locks. Definitely. And there's a couple of teams in there that you named that I think the Texans can actually pull off a victory against. So I'll have to go with 6-11. That's fair.
Yeah. Jared, we'll go to you.
I was going to say something similar. If they don't pull off a win against the Browns or the Dolphins, they could pull out one of those, but I got Giants. I got to beat the Bears. So I would say 5-12 at this time.
Zach?
I'm going to go 4-13.
Wow, Zach. Wow.
Repeat of last year.
Lay down the hammer.
They have another year or two of rebuilding, and then they're going to start to compete again.
They're not going to gain anything. Last year.
There's got to be some teams that don't win 8 games. Can't all win.
Well, Zach, Hold on. We got to read what Zach said. For the Jets. All right, you want to hear this? Let
me hear it.
Zach said the Jets are going 9-8.
Oh.
Okay. To be fair.
Whatever you're smoking, biased. Bro, I want some of that, man. I want some whatever you're smoking, bro.
To be fair, I was a little biased because I have Zach Wilson in Dynasty, so I have to kind of talk good about him, and say he's going to have a good season.
All right. Well, I'm going to go 5-12. So I'll go a game above Zach, and then I'll go game lower than Enyi. So I don't know. So we have Enyi 6-11. We have Jared 5-12, Zach 4-13, and then Drew 5-12. So that's the 4 records. And like I said, we'll get back to you on, how did you do, right? And that'll be a lot of fun. We actually had someone last week say Bills, the guy we had on, said Bills are going 17-0. He said book it.
Wow.
because he said he can't bet
Wow.
against his own team, and yeah, so thought that was nice.
You
Very
gotta be
confident.
realistic. You gotta be realistic sometimes, man.
Yeah. Packers 17-0, Zach, and I can say then too.
Wow.
We really wanted to, but our Packer wants for another episode. And yeah, with that, Enyi, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, one more time, you want to shout out where the people can find you?
I just want to say it was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. I am a co-host of the NuChannel Sports Podcast. That's NuChannel spelled NuChannel Sports. We have a website that's NuChannelSports.net, and we're on any major podcast platform available. It's myself, Enyi, Chris, Big Low, and Trey. We try to get out an episode every 1 to 3. We try to get out at least 1 to 3 episodes every week. But it was fun being on with you guys, man. And we have to do this again sometimes. It was real fun.
Of course.
Maybe not talk Texas, though. I can't.
Yeah.
It depresses me. Talk Texas, man.
But yeah, they post a lot on their Instagram as well. So I'll be on our Instagram page, of course. And yeah, their website, it's beautiful. So please go check it out. It's a nice website. The layout is wonderful. So please check them out. And yeah, with that, Jared, Zach, anything else from anyone?
No, thank you for coming on, Enyi.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
Yep. And one more time, thank you, Enyi, again for coming on. But with that, thank you all for listening.
One more thing. Do I get a prize after you figure out that my pick was correct, the 6 and 11? Do I get anything for that or no?
We'll see.
We'll have to figure something out.
You'll see.
Okay,
You'll
cool.
see.
Okay.
The element of
okay.
surprise.
Good. Okay. I'll be waiting for that.
With that, thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.